Long ago, before peace came to the stars, the Suravari Empire was at war. Their worlds were beautiful, full of tall crystal trees and glowing rivers. But enemies surrounded them from all sides. One dark day, something terrible happened. The young princess of the empire, Tiala, only 12 years old, was taken from her people. No one saw the kidnappers. No one knew where they came from. They wore black suits, had no names, and left no sign behind. Some said they were pirates. Others believed they were a secret enemy force trying to start a larger war. All that was clear: the princess was gone. For days, the empire searched. Their ships crossed the stars. Their scanners looked through dust clouds and nebulous storms. But they found nothing. Her mother, Empress Valari, sat alone in the great tower of the capital. Her eyes red, her crown forgotten on the floor. Then, something unexpected happened. On a small moon near the border of Suravari space, a signal was received, weak, broken, human code. It came from an old rescue beacon, one that did not belong to the Empire. A patrol ship rushed to the moon. What they found surprised everyone. There, in a cold cave, covered in silver thermal blankets, was Princess Tiala. Her face was tired, her long blue hair tangled, but her eyes were bright. She was alive, and beside her, guarding the entrance, was a human soldier. His uniform was torn. One of his arms was wrapped in cloth. His face was covered in dust and blood. But he stood tall, weapon ready, until the Suravari patrol ship landed. The Suravari soldiers raised their guns when they saw him. He did not move. He just pointed to the princess. "She's safe," he said. "Take her home." Tiala looked back at him as the soldiers pulled her toward the ship. "Wait!" she shouted. "He saved me." But the soldiers didn't stop. They didn't listen. The order was to bring her home. Nothing more. When the ship took off, the human soldier was gone. Back on the Suravari capital, Tiala was welcomed as a hero. Banners waved. Bells rang across the floating cities. But no one asked how she was saved. No one wanted to talk about the human. Empress Valari believed it was best to stay silent. "There must be no mistake," she told her council. "We are not at war with humans. Let this story remain quiet." And so, the truth was buried. The princess returned to her studies. The empire moved on, and the soldier's name was lost. Years passed. Tiala grew into a strong and wise woman. She learned languages, history, and diplomacy. But in her heart, she never forgot that day. She never forgot the strange cave, the sound of blaster fire, the cold wind against her skin. And she never forgot the human. She could not remember his face clearly, just his eyes, calm, like still water, and his voice, not loud or proud, just firm, kind, and sure. As the years moved forward, the war ended. Peace came between the Suravari Empire and the United Earth Alliance. Trade opened, ships moved freely, cultures met. Now, at 22, Tiala stood ready to take her role in a new world. The Empress, older and tired, had asked her daughter to lead the peace ceremony between the two great civilizations. Earth would send their best diplomats and veterans. Suravari would open their palace to welcome them. "It is time," Empress Valari said, resting her hand on her daughter's shoulder. "This moment is yours." Tiala nodded, but inside her, old memories stirred. What if he came? Was he even alive? Did he remember her? She had asked these questions before. Many times, she searched the records. Found nothing. Not a name. Not a file. Not even a medal. Who saves a princess and then disappears forever? Tiala didn't know. But something in her heart whispered, "He's out there. Somewhere." 3 days later, the Earth ship Harmony's path arrived. It was a quiet morning. The palace gardens were filled with pale mist, and the silver flags of Earth fluttered in the breeze. Tiala stood on the high steps of the landing port, wearing her royal robes, simple, elegant, and blue like the ocean sky. The Earth delegation stepped out. There were officials in long suits, generals with medals on their chests, translators, historians, guards. Tiala greeted them one by one. "Welcome, Ambassador." "We are honored, General," She bowed with grace and respect. But her eyes kept searching the crowd behind. And then, among the staff at the back, she saw someone. A man, plain clothes, no rank. Dark skin, short beard, a small scar on his cheek. His eyes. Calm. She blinked. He turned away, helping move supplies. No one paid attention to him. He was just another face, a helper, a translator. Nothing special. But something inside Tiala trembled. Could it be? She watched him for a few more seconds, then forced herself to look away. That night, she sat alone in her room, looking at the stars beyond her window. The moonlight touched her face. Her fingers tapped the desk slowly, thinking, remembering. She closed her eyes. That voice, that same, quiet strength. Her heart beat faster. Could the man she saw today really be the same human who saved her all those years ago? She didn't know, but something told her she had to find out before the ceremony ended, before he vanished again. Forever. The great palace of Sarava was full of color and sound. Dancers moved with flowing steps. Music filled the air like wind through crystal. The peace ceremony had begun, and guests from both Earth and the Suravari Empire filled the halls. Laughter echoed, hands shook, smiles were shared. But Princess Tiala had only one thought in her mind. That man, the one she saw earlier, quiet, unnoticed, carrying a box of supplies. No medals, no titles. He had eyes just like the man who saved her years ago. She had searched for that face her whole life. Now, after so many years, he stood only a few steps away, and yet she still did not know for sure. Her heart whispered, it must be him. Her mind warned, be careful. Don't let hope blind you. She needed proof, and she had to act quickly. The Earth delegation would only stay 5 days. That evening, Tiala walked down the west quarter of the palace. Her personal guard, Laurie, followed behind in silence. She held a data tablet and watched her princess carefully. Laurie, Tiala, said softly, do you know the names of all Earth visitors? Laurie nodded. Yes, princess. I have the full list. I want to speak with the man who works as their translator. He is not an officer. He is quiet, dark hair, beard, a small scar here. She pointed to her cheek. Laurie gave a slight bow. I will find him. Do not let him know I asked, Tiala said. Not yet. The next day, Laurie returned with the information. His name is Rami Velan, she said. He was once a soldier, but now he works in language services for the Earth Council. He speaks over 40 dialects. He keeps to himself. Tiala's breath caught. She whispered the name under her breath. Rami, VEHL, and it sounded right. It felt right. But one name was not enough. She had to be sure. Later that afternoon, she planned a quiet visit to the gardens. She invited a few guests to join, including to Earth advisors, and without making it obvious. The translator named Rami. Tiala sat on a stone bench near the glowing waterfall. The trees around them shimmered under the soft red sun. Flowers opened, like stars. One by one, her guests arrived. She spoke kindly to all of them, and then he came. Rami Velan walked with careful steps. He nodded politely. He did not look nervous, but he also didn't seem to enjoy the attention. He stood at the edge of the group, silent and still. Exactly how she remembered him in the cave. Tiala watched from a distance, her heart heavy. Then she stood and slowly walked over to him. Translator Velan, she said. He turned to face her, surprised. Yes, princess, his voice. That same voice. A soft warmth rose in her chest. I'm told you speak many languages, she said. He gave a small smile. Some say too many. She smiled too. Would you join me for a short walk? Just the two of us. The Earth officers looked shocked, but said nothing. Rami hesitated, then nodded. They walked side by side along the garden path. Tiala spoke gently. You've worked long with the Earth Council. Yes, Rami said, since I left the service. You were a soldier, for a short time. Many years ago, I was part of a rescue team, but I left after one mission. Why? He looked away. Sometimes one mission is enough. Her steps slowed. Her heart pounded. She took a breath. I was rescued once, she said, long ago, by a human soldier. He looked at her now, still but calm. He saved me from a cold moon, she continued. He was hurt, but he protected me. He didn't ask for anything. He just told me I was safe. Silence. Tiala looked into his eyes. Was it you? She asked softly. He did not blink. Yes, he said one word. That was all. Tiala froze. The wind whispered through the trees. She reached out and touched his arm. Why did you never come forward? She asked. It was not about me. Rami said. You were safe. That was enough. But you could have been honored, thanked. I didn't need thanks. I only wanted you to live. Her eyes burned with emotion. All these years. I thought I dreamed you. But you were real. He smiled gently. I am still real. Later that evening, Tiala sat in her private study, alone. She played the old voice log again on her hidden device, the one she had secretly copied. From the mission report. The same words. You're safe now. I'll hold the entrance. It was him. There was no doubt anymore. Tiala looked out the window, toward the stars. So many years had passed. She had searched in silence, carried the memory alone. But now, he was here. The world had changed. Peace was possible. And maybe now, so, was truth. The next morning, Princess Tiala sat at her large crystal desk in the palace library. The sky outside was clear, and light from the twin suns touched the smooth glass walls. A quiet wind moved through the leaves outside. But her thoughts were loud and busy. She had found him. After all these years, she had finally found Rami Velan, the human who saved her life. But the world didn't know, and that wasn't right. She remembered the way he stood in the garden the day before, calm, silent, always in the background. He had risked everything to save her. He could have died on that cold moon. Yet he asked for no reward, no medal, no name in the royal books. Tiala wanted the truth known, not only for her sake, but for his. A man like Rami should not be forgotten. But first, she needed the full story. She opened her private communication link to the palace archives. Give me access to records from the year of my rescue, she said. All files, even the locked ones. The screen flashed red. Access denied. Empress level on. Lydia frowned. Her mother, Empress Velari, had kept the records sealed all these years. Why? Was it to protect the peace, or to hide something deeper? Tiala stood and walked quickly to the royal tower. Inside the Empress's chamber, soft music played. Empress Velari sat on a golden chair, looking out over the floating city. Mother, Tiala said gently, I need your permission to open the old mission files. The Empress didn't turn her head. Why now? Tiala stepped closer. Because I met him. The man who saved me. He's here, in the palace. Now the Empress turned. Her eyes were sharp. You're sure? Yes, his name is Rami Velan. He's working as a translator for the Earth delegation. He told me the truth. The Empress stood slowly. And you believe him? I know it's him, Tiala said. I feel it in my heart. There was a long silence. Then the Empress walked to her desk and placed her hand on a scanner. Access granted, she said. But be warned, some truths are heavy. Tiala returned to her chamber and opened the locked files. The screen lit up with old report states. Names, mission codes. She scrolled through until she found it. Operation Silent reached status, unofficial mission soldier. Rami Velan outcome, success, target reconverged show up in the mission log. It was a short report. One human soldier, operating outside orders, entered a hostile zone after detecting a Suravari signal. Located missing princess. Protected her for 32 hours until Suravari rescue team arrived. Refused medical aid until extraction complete. Tiala leaned back. He acted alone. She opened the audio file attached. Rami's voice came through. I found her. She's cold but breathing. No weapons on her. Just a scared kid. I'm staying with her. If command wants to stop me, they can come themselves. Tiala smiled. The voice was calm, just as she remembered. He had risked his life because he saw her not as a princess, but as a child in danger. There was one more file. A message sent from Earth Command after the mission. Soldier Rami Velan to be discharged quietly. His actions were unauthorized, though results were positive. Political risk too high. No public statement will be made. Tiala felt anger rise. In her chest, he had been pushed out of the army for saving her. No reward. No recognition. It wasn't fair. She closed the files and looked out the window. This truth could no longer stay hidden. That evening, a royal dinner was held in the hall of stars. Long tables stretched under the glowing roof, where real stars were projected above the guests. Light music played, and dishes from both Saravari and Earth cultures were served. Tiala wore a simple dress, with her royal pin resting on her chest. She sat beside the Earth ambassador and smiled politely, but her eyes searched the crowd, and there he was. Rami stood near a pillar, not eating, just watching, still quiet, still unnoticed by most. She stood and walked to him. "You're not joining the table?" she asked. "I wasn't sure I should," he said. "You saved my life," she replied. "You belong here more than most." He smiled slightly but said nothing. "Rami," she said, lowering her voice, "I read the reports. I heard your voice. From that day, I know what happened, and I'm sorry." "For what?" he asked softly. "For the silence. For how they pushed you out. For how I never found you until now." He looked at her, his eyes full of calm understanding. "You were a child. You had no way to know. But now I do," she said, "and I want to tell the truth." He looked away, thinking, "Are you sure? The past is quiet for a reason." "I don't care if it's quiet," she said. "It's true, and the people should know." She held out her hand. "Will you help me tell them?" Rami looked at her for a moment, then he gently took her hand. "Yes." Later that night, as the stars above turned slowly in the glass dome, the princess sat with a plan in her heart. The world would soon learn what one human did on a lonely moon dot and how his choice shaped the future of two empires. The sky above the palace turned soft orange as the sun dipped below the mountains. Evening lights flickered on. Floating lanterns rose slowly in the air, glowing gently like stars. Princess Tiala walked through the quiet hallways of the palace. Her steps were slow. Her thoughts were loud. The truth was no longer hidden. She had read the mission reports, listened to the voice recordings, and found the man who once risked everything to save her. But one question still stayed in her heart. Why? Why had he done it? He wasn't ordered. He wasn't rewarded. He didn't know her. Yet he had thrown himself into danger for her. She needed to hear it from him. That night, she sent a message to Rami Velan. "Please meet me in the old observatory. No guards, no staff, just us." An hour later, the doors opened, and Rami stepped into the quiet dome. The glass above showed the night sky. Stars sparkled above them. The city below was far away, and silence wrapped around the two like a soft blanket. Tiala stood near the center, looking up. "You came," she said. "I always do," Rami answered. Gently, she turned to face him. "Thank you." He gave a small nod. They stood for a moment, not speaking. Then Tiala asked the question that had lived inside her for 10 long years. "Why did you save me?" Rami looked at her, surprised. "You were in danger." "Yes, but you didn't have to help. You could have followed orders. You could have walked away." Rami walked closer and looked at the stars. His voice was low, steady. "I didn't see a princess. I saw a scared child in the cold, alone, crying." He paused. "I had a little sister once. Her name was Miri. She died during an attack. I wasn't there to protect her. I never got the chance." Tiala listened quietly, her chest heavy. "When I saw you on that moon," Rami said, "I thought this time I can help. This time I won't be too late." Tiala's eyes filled with soft tears. "I never knew," she whispered. "No one did," Rami said, "because I didn't want the world to turn my pain into a story. I just wanted to make sure one life didn't end in silence." Tiala stepped closer. "You gave me more than life," she said. "You gave me strength." He looked at her, his eyes gentle. "I did what any human should do." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The stars above moved slowly. Then Tiala said, "I want to tell the world. I want to speak at the final ceremony, and I want you there beside me." Rami hesitated. "I'm not the kind of person who stands on stages. You don't have to speak," she said. "You just have to stand with me. Let them see who you are." He looked at her carefully. "Are you sure this won't cause trouble?" She nodded. "Let it cause trouble. Truth is better than silence." After a pause, Rami gave a small smile. "Then I'll stand with you." The next day, the palace was busy with preparations. The final peace ceremony would take place on the seventh night, in front of both Saravari and Earth delegates. It would be broadcast to hundreds of worlds. Tiala was expected to speak as the future ruler of the Saravari Empire. Her advisors brought her speech drafts, filled with the usual words: peace, unity, future. She read them, then set them aside. "No," she said, "I'll write my own." Later that evening, she sat in her chamber, holding a pen in her hand. The stars blinked outside her window. She began to write. There are moments in history when peace is not made by empires but by people. "A man with no rank, no medal, no reward, once gave me a gift I can never repay. He gave me life when I had lost all hope. His name is Rami Velan. He is a human, and he is my friend." She stopped, smiled, and continued writing. The night before the ceremony, Tiala met Rami again, this time in the hidden garden near the heart of the palace. No lights, no cameras, just moonlight and quiet flowers. She handed him a small silver pin. "It's the mark of honor," she said. "Only 3 people wear it. Now you're the 4th. "I don't need it," he said softly. "I know," she replied, "but I want you to have it." He took it gently and placed it in his pocket. "You're not the same little girl I found on that moon," he said. "And you're not the same soldier," she answered. They looked at each other. This time, it was not silence that stood between them. It was understanding. The day of the final ceremony came. The great Unity Hall was filled with guests. High leaders from Earth and Saravari worlds sat in rows. Light shined through the crystal ceiling. A quiet hum of music filled the air. Everyone waited for the princess to speak. Tiala walked to the center of the stage. Her blue robes flowed behind her. Her crown sparkled, but her eyes were clear and full of purpose. Beside her stood Rami, dressed in simple white and gray, wearing the silver pin she gave him. The crowd whispered. Many didn't know who he was. Tiala raised her hand. The room fell. Silent, she looked around and spoke. "I was saved by a human, not by a fleet, not by a weapon, by one man. When I was a child, lost and afraid, he found me. He didn't know I was a princess. He didn't care. He saw someone who needed help and he chose mercy." She paused. That choice, made in silence, changed everything. Then she turned to Rami. "This is the man who gave me my life back. Let the stars remember his name." The crowd gasped. Some rose. Some clapped slowly. Others stood in silence, and in that moment, the world began to change. The silence in the great Unity Hall lasted longer than expected. After Princess Tiala finished her speech, the room was filled with stillness. Everyone stared at the man, standing beside her, Rami Velan, the quiet human who had lived in the shadows. For so long, no one had expected this. The leaders of Earth and Saravari had prepared speeches, handshakes, and peaceful smiles. But Tiala had spoken from the heart, and her words had changed the air in the room. She had called out history. She had declared the truth. And she had pointed to one man who had once been forgotten. By both sides, a few guests began to clap, slowly. Gently, then more hands joined. Soon, the hall was filled with applause, not loud and wild, but strong and steady, like the beat of something honest. Tiala turned her head slightly to look at Rami. He stood still, his eyes calm. But inside, his heart was moving faster than it had in years. He had faced battle, hunger, and fear. But standing here before rulers and commanders felt harder than any war. Still, he stood tall. He didn't smile, but he gave a small nod to the crowd. That was enough. After the ceremony ended, people came forward. Some Earth officials asked Tiala why the soldiers' actions were never reported. Saravari Council members wanted to know why the records had been Sealed, Tiala answered all questions with quiet strength. He saved a life. He asked for nothing. We gave him silence. That was a mistake. One Saravari elder asked, Princess, do you think this changes everything? She replied, It already has. Later that day, news spread across hundreds of planets. Humans saved Princess years ago, now honored in Saravari Empire. Truth behind lost rescue mission revealed after a decade. Princess breaks protocol too. Honor forgotten hero pictures of Rami standing beside Tiala filled screens and news feeds. People who had never heard his name now spoke it with respect. On Earth, many veterans remembered Rami. Some had served with him. Messages poured in. You did what no one else would. We remember now, brother. You gave us pride today. In the Saravari cities, many citizens, especially the young, shared Tiala's speech across their networks. To them, it was more than a royal speech. It was a call to remember kindness over power. But not everyone was happy. Inside the Earth delegation hall, Ambassador Vorn frowned at the reports. This could cause problems, he said. She broke diplomatic script. She revealed a sealed mission. One of his aides asked, Do you want us to respond? Vorn shook his head. We can't. Fight truth. Let it pass. We will say we support it. He leaned back in his chair. But mark my words, this moment will be remembered. At the Saravari Palace, Empress Velari sat in her quiet chamber, reading her daughter's speech again. She had once ordered silence about the rescue. She had feared war, fear, and misunderstanding. Now, her daughter had done the opposite, spoken clearly. Publicly, the Empress was not angry. She was proud. She touched the old crown beside her and whispered, You are ready. In the center garden that night, Rami stood alone by a silver tree. The stars above blinked softly. Footsteps came behind him. It was Tiala. You disappeared after the ceremony, she said. I needed quiet, Rami replied. Too much attention? He gave a small smile. I'm not used to crowds. She stood beside him, her hands behind her back. They loved your story. It's not just mine, he said. It's yours too. They looked up at the stars for a while. Do you regret it? She asked. Saving you? He said. Never. She turned toward him. Then I don't regret telling the world. The next day, the Earth Council offered Rami an award, the Star of Peace. He accepted it quietly. The Saravari High Council gave him a home in the capital. He thanked them but requested to stay near the gardens where the princess often walked. The people, both human and Saravari, began calling him the Silent Shield. He didn't like titles, but he didn't fight it. He understood now his story was not just about him. It had become a light for others. In the following weeks, many things began to change. Young people on both Earth and Sarava studied the rescue mission in schools. Leaders spoke more openly about past mistakes. Even old soldiers began sharing hidden acts of mercy during wartime. A new kind of story began to rise, one where humans were not just warriors, but protectors. And in every version of the tale, one moment always stood at the center: a wounded human soldier, holding a blaster at the mouth of a cave, protecting a frightened alien girl until help came. One evening, as the red sun set low, Tiala invited Rami for a walk. They strolled through the palace gardens, past golden flowers and floating birds. Do you ever wish to go back? She asked. To the cave? He asked. To the time before all this? Rami thought for a moment. I miss the silence, he said. But I don't miss being forgotten. Tiala looked at him. You won't be forgotten again. They walked in silence for a while. Then she said quietly, You didn't just save me. You gave me a path, a reason to lead with truth. He nodded. And you gave me something too. He replied. What? A reason to stay. The stars above. Then blinked gently, just like the day they first met. But now, they were no longer strangers. They were light for each other and for a future that had just begun. The peace ceremony was almost complete. Just one day remained before the final peace treaty would be signed, uniting the Saravari Empire and the United Earth Alliance. But not all was calm. Rumors whispered through the halls of the palace. Some questioned the sudden revelation about Rami Velan, the human who had saved Princess Tiala. Some feared old enemies might use the story to weaken the fragile peace. Early that morning, as the sun rose over the glass towers of the Suravari capital, a message arrived for Rami. It was from his old commander on Earth, Captain Heron. "We need to talk. Important security concerns." Rami read the message twice. His heart quickened. Was this about the rescue mission, or something new? He decided to meet Captain Heron at the secure Earth embassy inside the palace. The embassy was a quiet, steel building surrounded by gardens. Inside, Captain Heron waited. His face serious. "Rami," he said without greeting, "your story has gone public." "That was brave." "Thank you," Rami replied. "But why did you want to see me?" Heron took a deep breath. "There's news about the shadow group who took the princess years ago." Rami's eyes narrowed. "The kidnappers? Yes, they are active again. We believe they want to stop the peace talks. They see your story as a threat." Rami's mind raced. "Do we know where they are?" he asked. "Not exactly, but they've attacked a supply ship near the border. We expect more soon." Back at the palace, Tiala met with her own advisors. "We must be ready," she said. "If they attack, we will protect our people." And Rami, her chief guard, Lari, nodded. "I will increase security around the Earth delegation. No one will harm them." Tiala's eyes were steady. "We cannot show fear. Peace is stronger than threats." That evening, a gala was held to celebrate the alliance. Music and laughter filled the grand hall. Leaders from many planets joined to honor the new era. Rami stood beside Tiala, both dressed in their finest. Suddenly, alarms blared. The doors sealed shut. A voice echoed through the room. "This peace is a lie." It shouted. "We will stop it." Shadows appeared at the edges of the hall. Armed figures moved quickly toward the center. Rami's training took over. He grabbed Tiala's arm. "Stay close," he whispered. The crowd panicked. But the palace guards acted fast. Rami and the guards fought to keep the attackers away from Tiala. In the chaos, one attacker aimed a weapon at the princess. Rami stepped forward, blocking the shot with his body. Pain exploded in his side. He fell, but stood again. "Go," he shouted to Tiala. She nodded, hiding behind a pillar. The guards captured the attackers quickly. The voice belonged to Kellen, a leader of the shadow group. They wanted to destroy the peace before it began. After the fight, Tiala helped Rami sit. "Are you hurt?" she asked, concern clear. "A little." He smiled weakly. "You risked everything, because peace is worth it." The next day, the peace treaty was signed. Leaders from both sides stood together, hands joined. Tiala spoke again. "Today, we choose hope over fear. We honor those who protect peace, like Rami Velan. Let this moment be a promise to the future." The crowd cheered, louder and stronger than before. Rami looked at Tiala. "We faced a test," he said, "and we passed." They smiled. The peace treaty was not just words. It was a new beginning. Peace had returned to the palace, but the air still held a quiet tension. After the failed attack during the gala, security remained tight. Extra guards walked every hall. Watchers floated near the palace roof. Everyone knew the enemy could still strike. But inside the royal hall, people gathered once again, not for war or warnings, but for a special announcement. Princess Tiala had called for a final public address. She had told no one what she would say, not even the Empress, not even Rami Velan, only that the world must hear it. The hall was silent as the princess stepped onto the silver platform. Above her, soft blue lights danced across the high crystal ceiling. Her dress was simple, white with golden thread, and her royal pin glowed quietly. Rami stood at the back of the crowd, wearing a neat Earth uniform. His side was still sore from the fight, but he stood tall. He didn't know why she had called this gathering, but he trusted her. He always had. Tiala began to speak. "My people," she said, her voice clear and calm. "And to our new friends from Earth, today, we end this time of fear, not just with papers and handshakes, but with truth." She paused. The room listened closely. "You know the story now, how a human saved me when I was lost. You know his name, Rami Velan. And you know how he risked his life for someone he Didn't even know. She looked toward him. I searched for him for years. I found him at last. And in him, I found not only a hero, but someone who reminded me of what leadership should be. Murmurs moved through the crowd. The Empress sat still, watching her daughter closely. Tiala continued, I was saved once, long ago. And now, in this moment, I want to do something more than thank the man who saved me. She looked out at the faces before her, leaders, citizens, guards, friends, and enemies alike. I want to choose a new path, one that brings our worlds even closer. Rami felt his heart beat faster. What was she saying? Tiala raised her hand. I declare, before my people and our allies, that Rami Velan is no longer just a guest in this palace. He is now a guardian of the realm, a title given to only those who protect the royal family with their life. Gasps filled the air. A human, named Guardian? That had never happened before. But Tiala was not finished, and beyond that, she turned toward Rami fully. I offer him not just honor, but partnership, not as a soldier, not as a servant, but as my equal. The hall froze. Was she saying what they thought? Tiala smiled. I asked Rami Velan to stand by my side in building this future as guardian and as someone more. The room fell silent again. Everyone looked at Rami. His mind was spinning. He had never wanted fame, never wanted a title. But as he looked at her strong, honest, brave, he understood. She wasn't doing this to gain power. She was giving a voice to peace, to trust, to love, even if not yet spoken aloud. He stepped forward. Slowly, the guards did not stop him. He walked until he stood beside her on the platform. He didn't speak a long speech, just a few words. Quiet but strong. I accept. The hall erupted in applause. Even the Empress, though surprised, gave a small smile. Rami bowed slightly to her, and then, to the people, Tiala held out a thin golden band, the mark of a royal guardian. She placed it on his arm. The people cheered louder. For the first time in their history, a human had been honored with such a title. And for the first time, a princess had chosen not just duty, but something deeply human, gratitude, loyalty, and hope for something new. In the days that followed, the story spread across both planets. Young children played games pretending to be brave soldiers, and wise princesses, old soldiers, smiled, remembering what courage really meant, and people spoke not of war, but of unity. One quiet evening, Rami and Tiala stood on the palace roof, watching the twin moons rise. They say your declaration shocked everyone, Rami said, smiling. Tiala laughed softly. Did it shock you too? Yes, he said. But it felt right. She looked up at the stars. I don't know what path we'll take next, she said. But I know I don't want to walk it alone. You won't, he said. They stood together in silence. No war, no titles, no duty. Just two people from two worlds who had found each other again.